What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to take the Sur-Ron for a trip to our local state park, and we're going to rip through some trails and talk about whether biking is for you. So let's chat. Before we get into today's video, if you like this kind of content and you end up liking this video, don't forget to hit the like button, do the subscribe, do the things that help me out as I'm building this YouTube channel. If you're here from my other platforms, thank you. I appreciate you. And if you're not, and you'd like to follow me on everything else where I post a ton more content, you can find me at XMotoJack on everything. And now, today's video. I want to preface this video by saying that I want everybody to enjoy motorcycling. I want the people that are interested in doing it to get into it, to learn, to practice properly. And I want everybody to enjoy the same thing that I do. I just think, unfortunately, that a lot of people get into it for the wrong reasons. I feel like there's a lot of people that see motorcycling on social media and they look at it as a very sensationalized and glamorous hobby. They're doing it at a young age, they're not learning properly, they're not getting into it with the right things in mind, getting a bike that's too big for them, whatever it might be. There's a trail back there, we're gonna hit that. And you end up having a really bad situation. The sport can not only be dangerous, it can be deadly, right? So we're gonna break this down into three categories. And the three main categories of why I think motorcycling might not be for you and things that you need to consider are gonna be convenience or time, maintenance or money, and then safety. Ultimately, you know, it can be a very dangerous hobby. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, this is gonna be big old muddy. Here we go, let's get out of here. Oh yeah, woo! Oh, got so much mud up my back. Let's talk about the sensationalized state of being that is the motorcycle community first. A lot of people are seeing what's happening on social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, etc., and think that getting a motorcycle is as simple as just buying the bike, getting a helmet, taking pictures, going to bike meets, etc. Ultimately, whenever you're getting a bike, you need to decide what it's for. Is it a hobby? Is it a lifestyle? Is it a commuter? Like, what's the point? What are you trying to accomplish? Because if it is just a social thing and you think it's going to be an accessory, that's really where the dangerous part comes in. A motorcycle is not an accessory. How deep this is. We send it. Anyway, where was I? Motorcycling is not an accessory. It's not something to do to be glamorous, right? And I think that that is ultimately what is hurting a lot of people, young and old, but mostly young people that see it and don't take it seriously. Even if it's a hobby, even if it's something that you're doing, you know, on the side, it's still something that needs to be taken seriously. You have to be safe. You have to consider all of these factors. Oh yeah, it's all washed out. Not on a street tire, you know what I mean? Like, I want to send it through there, but I don't want to send it through there without any traction. So let's talk about the first category. Let's talk about convenience. A lot of people think of motorcycling as one of the most convenient ways of transportation, because it's like, oh, well, if there's traffic, you skip it. You know, whatever it might be, you can go around cars, you can go faster. You don't really have to wait. That's not the case. It actually, in most places, I think in only one, maybe two states right now, lane splitting or lane filtering is legal. Now, you can't get away with it in a lot of places, or like the cops aren't going to mess with you a lot of times, but at the same time, that can be one of the most dangerous things to do, especially if you're not experienced. So if you think you're getting into it for the sole purpose and fact of like, oh, well, I'm just going to cut around traffic and I'm going to cut my time in half, it's just not the way it happens. It's not that simple. On the other half of convenience is going to be weather. If you are riding for a hobby or a lifestyle, it is not always the most convenient thing to be on a motorcycle. Sure, the freedom is great, the wind is great, it feels good whenever the weather's nice, but here in Florida, it rains almost every day. It's almost a guarantee that if you're out on a bike, you're going to find some sort of weather. You're going to find some sort of rain, okay? And that's not glamorous at all. Being soaked, getting to wherever your destination is not fun. There is nothing about that that is enjoyable. So convenience-wise, it may look glamorous, it may look awesome, but it's not the most convenient form of travel. You know, when it's super hot even and you're in traffic, or even if you're slightly lane filtering but it's really, really hot, it can be very, very, very brutal just in the heat. That was a nice little loop. All right, next let's talk about money. Let's talk about the financial aspect of it, okay? People think, oh, well, bikes are cheap, no big deal, you can get a used one. It's not the way it works. Motorcycling is an expensive hobby. It's an expensive hobby no matter how cheap the bike is, no matter how old the bike is, no matter what. Because if you get an older bike, you're putting money into new parts, maintenance, upkeep, whatever it might be. And then the hobby itself is just expensive. You got gear, right? Gear is expensive. Motorcycle gear is incredibly expensive because it's a bunch of different pieces. It's not just like, you know, oh, I go and I get the helmet and then I'm good. Some people think that way. Some people are like, oh, all you need is a bike and a helmet. That's not the way it works. Again, we're looking at this in the form and the viewpoint of we want to be safe. We want to, you know, obey the laws of the road, whatever it might be. And a lot of that has a cost. There is a financial buy-in to that. On top of that, maintenance. Maintenance on a bike is expensive. You're going through tires faster, you're going through, your oil changes, and again, depending on if it's a hobby or a lifestyle, ultimately that's where you're going to land as far as the range of financial buy-in, but still, you're burning through your tires faster, you have to maintain your chain, you have to keep the bike clean, oil changes, whatever it might be, right? These are things that you're putting money into, and you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about it, because it's, again, we're not talking about just buying the bike, getting a helmet, and sending it down the street. You can do that, but at the end of the day, that's not really getting into motorcycling. That's not the whole overarching hobby and sport. There's a lot more to it. So we've talked about convenience, might not be everything that you think. Money-wise, again, might not be everything that you think. You may be looking at it and go, oh, well, it's a cheap hobby, I can get into it, all my friends are doing it, and I can just, cheap buy-in and go from there. We need to make sure that we're considering all of the possibilities and all of the aspects of the overarching hobby. Last but certainly not least, okay, is safety. Safety is the number one thing that people don't fully understand when they're getting into motorcycling. From the outside, I think people have a general idea that motorcycling is dangerous, but they always think that, oh, well, I'm better, I'm more skilled, it's not going to happen to me. And they don't come at it with respect, which is why they start on a bike that's too big, which is why they get into it without practicing, and they follow their friends and peer pressure into, doing things that they're not comfortable with, whatever. And at the end of the day, that's the issue, right? Is getting into the sport for the wrong reason and not respecting it. And not respecting the fact that every single time you go out, you're vulnerable, you're taking your life into your own hands, and you have to literally ride like everybody else on the road could kill you at any moment, because they could. And that is the truth of it. Title's a little cheeky. Motorcycling's not for you. Well, I want it to be. I want it to be for everyone, okay? I want everyone to be able to enjoy the same amazing sport that I do. That's why I make content. That's why I make videos. I want to share my passion of this sport with everyone in the hopes that more people can enjoy it. My fear is that people are jumping into it without the proper rationale, without the proper logic, and doing it for the wrong reasons. And not only is that frustrating to the people that are in the sport that have put a lot of time and effort and dedication into it, but it's also just very dangerous, right? It's very, very dangerous. And I talk about it a lot. That's why a lot of my content is so beginner focused. I feel like there's just way too many younger people getting into the sport without doing their research, without putting the time into practicing. And again, that ends badly a lot of the time. And I don't like that. I don't want that. So anyways, let me know what you think about the overall arcing conversation, about it not being for everyone, about how people should look at it, right? I'm interested to kind of hear some feedback, right? So do that. And if you like this video, like I said, do me a favor, stick around, do the things that help me out. And until next time, be safe.